ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, entitled Creation, Chapter 7, The Son of Drona Punished, text number 35. Ma enam partha arhasi tratum mainam partha arhasi tratum
mainam parthasi tratum
brahmabandhum imam jahi brahmabandhum imam jahi yaha asau anagasaha suptan yosau anagasaha suptan avadhin nisi balakan avadhin nisi balakan mainam partharhasi tratum brahmabandhum imam jahi yosau anagasaha suptan avadhin nisi balakan mainam partharhasi tratum brahmabandhum imam jahi yosau anagasaha suptan avadhin nisi balakan.
Mainam partharhasi tratum brahmabandhum imam jahi yosavanagasa suptan avadhin nisi balakan
Mainam partharhasi tratum brahmabandhum imam jahi yosavanagasa suptan avadhin nisi balakan.
Mainam partharhasi tratum brahmabandhum imam jahi yosavanagasa suptan avadhin nisi balakan.
Mainam partharhasi tratum brahmabandhum imam jahi yosavanagasa suptan avadhin nisi balakan.
Mainam partharhasi tratum brahmabandhum imam jahi yosavanagasa सावनागसः सुप्तान् अवधीन्निशि बालकान्
Mataji's.
मैनं पार्थार्हसि त्रातुं
Mainam partharhasi tratum
ब्रह्मबन्धुमिमं जहि
Brahmabandhumimam jahi
योऽसावनागसः सुप्तान्
Yosavanagasaha suptan
अवधीन्निशि बालकान्
Avadhin nishivalakan
मैनं पार्थार्हसि त्रातुं
Mainam partharhasi tratum
ब्रह्मबन्धुम् इमं जहि
Brahmabandhumimam jahi
योऽसावनागस सुप्तान्
Yosavanagasaha suptan
अवदीन् निशिबालकान्
Avadhin nishivalakan
मैनं पार्थार्हसि त्रातुं
Mainam partharhasi tratum
ब्रह्मबन्धुमिमं जहि
Brahmabandhumimam jahi
योऽसावनागसः सुप्तान्
Yosavanagasaha suptan
अवदीन्निशि बालकान्
Avadhin nishibalakan. Online. Mainam partharhasi tratum Brahmabandhumimam jahi Yosavanagasaha suptan Avadhin nishibalakan. Synonyms: Ma'enam, never unto him. Partha, O Arjuna. Arhasi, ought to. Tratum, give release.
Give release.
Brahmabandhum,
Brahmabandhum,
a relative of a Brahmana.
a relative of a Brahmana.
Imam,
Imam,
him.
him.
Jahi,
Jahi,
kill.
kill.
Yaha,
Yaha,
he who has.
he who has.
Asau,
Asau,
those.
those.
Anagasaha,
Anagasaha,
faultless.
faultless.
Suptan,
Suptan,
while sleeping.
while sleeping.
Abadhit,
Avadhit,
killed.
killed.
Nisi,
Nishi,
at night.
at night.
Balakan,
Balakan,
the boys.
the boys.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada.
Translation: Lord Shri Krishna said, O Arjuna, you should not show mercy by releasing this relative of a Brahmana, Brahmabandhu, for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep. Translation with repetition. Lord Shri Krishna said,
Lord Shri Krishna said,
O Arjuna,
O Arjuna,
you should not show mercy
you should not show mercy
by releasing this relative of a Brahmana,
by releasing this relative of a Brahmana,
Brahmabandhu,
Brahmabandhu,
for he has killed
for he has killed
innocent boys
innocent boys
in their sleep.
in their sleep.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
The word Brahmabandhu is significant. A person who happens to take birth in the family of a Brahmana but is not qualified to be called a Brahmana is addressed as the relative of a Brahmana and not as a Brahmana. The son of a high court judge is not virtually a high court judge, but there is no harm in addressing a high court judge's son as a relative of the honorable justice. Therefore, as by birth only one does not become a high court judge, so also one does not become a Brahmana simply by birthright, but by acquiring the necessary qualifications of a Brahmana. As the high court judgeship is a post for the qualified man, so also the post of a Brahmana is attainable by qualification only. The Shastra enjoins that if good qualifications are seen in a person born in a family other than that of a Brahmana, the qualified man has to be accepted as a Brahmana. And similarly, if a person born in the family of a Brahmana is void of Brahminical qualification, then he must be treated as a non-Brahmana, or in better terms, a relative of a Brahmana. Lord Shri Krishna, the supreme authority of all religious principles, the Vedas, has personally pointed out these differences And he is about to explain the reason for this in the following slokas. Thus ends the wonderful transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are in this section of Bhagavatam where we are seeing this conversation which is happening between Krishna and Arjuna. As we have already seen in Bhagavad Gita, this is another conversation which is happening between Krishna and Arjuna. And very interestingly, this verse is spoken by the Lord himself. So, having read Srila Prabhupada's books and having understood the intent when Prabhupada writes some of these purports, whenever there is Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, there is extra attention which needs to be paid. So this verse is spoken by none other than the Supreme Lord. And this verse, is it visible, Amol? Visible? So this verse is a very interesting verse, very nice verse, and very important purport. So the verse says, Mainam Parthar Hasitratum Brahma Bandhum Imam Jahi Yosav Anagasah Suptan Avadhin Nishibalakan. Usually when we take this verse and when we discuss, I will have one verse, then I will show the word-to-word meanings, then we talk about the translation, and then we try to memorize or see what this verse is trying to say. And then after the class is over, I'll ask, do you remember anything, one word? Usually one word will come from the verse that we have seen. From the class, usually sometimes people don't remember. So I thought we will do it differently. There are a few reasons behind that. One of the first things is in our life, when anything which is given easily, Mainam Parthar Sitratum Brahma Bandhum Imam Jahi Yosav Anagasa Suptan Avadhin Nishibalakan. What is the big deal? I mean, it's like something which is prepared by someone with great austerity, with great difficulties. He has removed all the obstacles, everything that is unwanted, and he is giving you, serving you nicely on a plate. Then we just eat and forget the hard work which is gone behind making that thing happen. Similarly, when we have Bhagavad Gita has got 18 chapters, 700 slokas. Bhagavatam has got 12 cantos and so many chapters and verses. One of these verses also. So what is the big deal? And if not that attitude, also we have the problem of our own attention, our own struggles, our own challenges, our own limitations. So then even with all those together, hearing Bhagavatam also becomes a formality. Somehow it has to get over, and then anyway I'll be taking prasadam and I'll be gone. But one needs to ask oneself, why am I doing this? Why I should read, why I should hear Bhagavatam attentively? There is a lot of stress and emphasis which is given on hearing Bhagavatam attentively. For some of us who are in the Grihastha ashram, I mean, it is difficult to come every day and to do Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. But at least one day in a week we are coming. But unfortunately, Many a times our situation, physically, mentally, emotionally, are so much disturbed. Somebody is sleep deprived, he feels sleepy in the class. Somebody is attention deprived, he lacks attention in hearing Bhagavatam. And somebody is having so many other thoughts. Like yesterday I was mentioning the recent research which is done by Microsoft. It says that the attention span of human beings is less than that of a goldfish. Goldfish attention span is 9 seconds and human beings attention span is 8 seconds. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, your mind is gone somewhere else. That is average attention span. And it is only going down as Kali Yuga is progressing. So with all those challenges and difficulties, how will we understand what is this path of spirituality which we have embraced by choice or by some dint of good fortune? What exactly I am supposed to do? We can only pray. We can only pray to Srila Prabhupada. We can pray to the deities that somehow there is some mercy which should come in my heart, which makes me attentive, which makes me submissive, which makes me humble. And then only this knowledge will be revealed to me. Otherwise, this becomes another verse. And everything becomes a formality. Even the question answer that we have there also, because you have to say something, you say from the verse that you just some one word you remember and you forget about it. But if you pay attention and look at these verses, these are wonderful verses, wonderful revelations. Let's see this verse. Mainam parthar harsitratum brahmavandhum imam jahi yosavanagasah suptan avadhin nishibalakan. Mainam, ma, the word ma in Sanskrit means never, not. Ma enam partha arhasitratum. Partha, O Arjuna, arhasi. Do you remember this word arhasi anywhere in Bhagavad Gita? Nasochitum arhasi. That is there in second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, at least in few verses, where Krishna keeps telling about, when he talks about the difference between soul and body, nasochitum arhasi. He repeats that. Arhasi means you don't deserve. Not you don't, just deserve. Na sochitum arhasi. You don't deserve to lament. Mainam partha arhasi tratum. So this word arhasi is used by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita multiple times. You don't deserve to show mercy. Mainam partha arhasi tratum. Tratum. Don't show any mercy to this person. Who's this person? He's Brahma Bandhum. Even though he is born as the son of Dronacharya, very exalted personality, but he is addressed here by Krishna as Brahma Bandhum. And Prabhupada is qualifying what does a Brahma Bandhum means in the whole purport, and we will see that. But just for the time being, bear it in mind that Krishna is telling he is not deserving mercy because he is Brahma Bandhum. Brahma Bandhum imam jahi. Jahi, do you know where it is used in Bhagavad Gita? Jahi Satrum. Where is it? Which chapter? Yes. Jahi Satrum Kama Rupam Durasadam. The last verse of Bhagavad Gita. Jahi is to become victorious. Jahi Satrum is to curb that enemy. Evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhyatmanam atmana jahi satrum mahabaho kama rupam durasadam. Jahi satrum mahabaho. Jahi is to conquer. Jahi satrum mahabaho. Brahma bandhum imam jahi. So this is an instruction by the Lord. Brahma bandhum imam jahi. Become victorious over him. Why? Why Krishna is having so much of anger? We talked about Krishna's compassion. Yes, last verse that we spoke about, where Prabhupada is highlighting, even though prakupitaha, Arjuna was angry and Krishna was angry. But the anger, there was a difference. And the anger of Krishna was transcendental. Why here Krishna is telling that, we should not show any compassion on Brahma Bandhu? Because the next line, he is giving some more reasons. Yo shav anagasaha suptan avadhin nishibalakan. because this person who's actually a Brahmana is taking the role of a Kshatriya, which he is not supposed to, A. B. He is killing Yosau Anagasaha Suptan Avadhin Nisivalakan. He is killing Balakan, he is killing children, he is killing people who are not adults, and he is killing them Anagasaha. They are sinless, they don't have any faults, they are faultless. Suptan, they are sleeping. Avadhin, they don't have any weapon. Nisi, in the night. Imagine how heinous this act can be, how condemnable this, despicable this act is. Yosau Anagasaha Suptan Avadhin Nisibalakan. He not only killed the Balakan, he killed those Balakan who are Anagasaha, who are faultless, who were Suptan, who were sleeping. Avadhin, weaponless. Nisi, in the dark night, he killed them, beheaded them. That is why Krishna is telling, Mainam Partha Arhasi Tratum. They don't deserve any mercy. Brahma Bandhum Imam Jahi. Let's see the purport. Beautiful purport by Prabhupada. Wonderful purport. Let's pay attention to this purport first, and then we will discuss further. So in the purport, what Prabhupada is saying is, the word Brahmabandhu is significant. And if you remember anywhere, Prabhupada is saying something is significant, how careful we should be. The word Brahmabandhu is significant. This is the first line of the purport, and Prabhupada is saying this word is also very significant. And that's why as sadhakas, we should pay extra attention to these words when Prabhupada is highlighting them or calling out. The word Brahmabandhu is significant. Why? What is the reason why Prabhupada is saying this word is significant? A person who happens to take birth in the family of a Brahmana but is not qualified to be called a Brahmana is addressed as the relative of a Brahmana and not as a Brahmana. So you see, there is a very important thing about practicing spirituality, about becoming a Brahmana, about becoming a devotee, about becoming a Vaishnava. It's not just some mere formalities or external changes, which often people see. Maybe when you came for the first time to Krishna consciousness, you probably were not having Kantimala, you were not putting tilak. Now externally there is some change which has happened. But is that external change is the only thing that happens when somebody takes up to this process of devotion? The answer is an emphatic no. Just like a person who is born in the family of a Brahmana and starts wearing a Brahminical thread doesn't become a qualified Brahmana. He is a Brahmabandhu. You need to have that qualification to become a Brahmana. It's not a small thing. The son of a High Court judge is not virtually a High Court judge, but there is no harm in addressing a High Court judge's son as a relative of the Honorable Justice. By birth, only one does not become a High Court judge, so also one does not become a Brahmana simply by birthright, but by acquiring the necessary qualifications of a Brahmana. Some of us who are first initiated, we sometimes aspire that we should become second initiated. Then we become Brahmana, and the understanding that we have in our mind is once we become Brahmana, we can do deity worship, or we can cook for the Lord, right? That's what we know. So when we are aspiring to become something in life, when even for that matter, when we aspire to become a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, even a step back, for us, for some of us, it was given in such an easy manner, we don't even value that I have been accepted by His divine grace, Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We don't even know that who has accepted us as His disciples. Because it was just given, it just came, and we don't even know the significance of that event of being accepted as a disciple of a pure devotee spiritual master. It just came to us. So in life, often we need to have this distinction between these two words, which are very, very important. One word is called claim, and the other one is called, one is called claim, and the other one is called deserve. Often we claim, हक बनता है मेरे को ब्राह्मणिकल इनिशिएशन दे दीजिए, ठीक है, नाउ हो गया 1 साल हो गया, दे दीजिए, we claim. And there is another thing where we deserve. How do you become a deserving candidate? What you do that makes this difference or the shift from claim to deserve? I don't know which president of America, but he had said, think of what you can do to the country, not what the country can give it to you. Who? Jefferson? Jeff Kennedy, okay. So often we talk about our entitlements. Now I'm a devotee, I'm a first initiated disciple, I'm a second initiated disciple. I mean, some of us are missionaries, so I'm coming and offering tulsi water. Some of the things we are doing differently. So now I deserve to do this. So sometimes we think, what is my entitlement? But what we often don't see, whether we really deserve, whether we deserve to become a Brahmana, whether we deserve to become a devotee, whether we deserve to do devotional service, whether we deserve to become a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And what makes a person deserving is the qualifications. Suppose you have come for an interview, Ananya, and you have no qualifications, 0 qualifications. You have got a nice CV, you have written so many things, but when we are having this conversation, I realize that you lack everything for the post, for the interview that I am doing. And there is somebody else who comes, your brother, just for the example, he has all the qualifications. Now, whom should I give that job to? To you or to him? To him. But you may say that, no, I've also applied. I've also, I've got a CV, I've given it to you. But you don't deserve it. When somebody deserves, that thing automatically comes in life. And when somebody does not deserve, no matter how much of claim you can have, I need to have this, I need to get this in my life, we will not get it. I want to show you 2 videos. Pay attention to these videos, and then we will have further discussion. I don't know if I shared sound or not. Okay. Two very interesting and contrasting videos, just 2-3 minutes videos, but very powerful. So let's see the first one. Is it visible? It should work. It will work. I shared the sound. It's audible, right? So he's a professional tennis player, and you saw how many rackets he broke? 3 rackets, right? Of course, luckily he had a lot of rackets, right? The match could have continued. But what happens is, sometimes when we don't know how to manage our inner emotions and channelize those things, it can come out like this. A person can erupt, like it happened in the case of Aswathama. Suptan, Avadhin, people who were asleep, Balakan, Nishi, in the dark night he's killing them. You not only do something which is grossly a blunder, but you don't even realize that you are doing something blunder. Like, it's just breaking. There are so many people in this world who can't even afford to buy a single racket, and this person is breaking not 1, 2, 3. Right? So there is something, if we are not careful of, when that power is given to us. Suppose somebody makes you, for example, somebody makes you a guru, where you actually are not, you will create havoc. Same holds true for every single thing in our life, including becoming a Brahmana or a Vaishnava. Let's see another video, very interesting video, and pay attention to this. A quite contrast to what we just saw. This is Padma Shri Award 2022, last year. How many times he paid obeisances? How many times that person broke rackets? This person is getting Padma Shri Award, the highest recognition. And if you don't know, he's actually 125 years old. Okay, and he's paying obeisances to the Prime Minister and to the President twice. What does it show? How does it come? It's a genuine act of humility, and I'll show you maybe towards the end if time permits. There's a small interview of his where he says, how does he develop this? Why? If you see, he had Vaishnava Tilak. Right? How did he develop that? He talks about that, but that we will see if there is time which is permitting, then we will go there. But what is very important in our life is to see within if I am developing the right qualifications. Asking for things, asking for facilities is something which is very easy. Anybody I don't have this, so that's why I'm not doing devotional service. I'm having this problem, so I'm not doing this thing. I can come and go on cribbing about life in so many ways, because that is what is our nature. But when we go deeper and see whether I really have the qualifications, and this qualification is something which is an asset of every one of us. We need to work very closely to develop the right qualification so that our spiritual master feels that we deserve to take more responsibility, we deserve to do more services, and we get. Not that we go and claim, give me, why are you not giving me? You should give. Those mentality is really a big obstacle in the path of devotion. Now, to understand this whole thing and to put it in our perspective in life, let us see some verses from Bhagavad Gita. Let's understand some concept and see how we are following that in our life or how we are deviating from that in our life. One of the very important concepts which Bhagavad Gita introduces in different pages of Bhagavad Gita in different chapters is the concept of yajna. Anybody knows what is yajna? What is the definition of yajna? Austerity. Okay. So pay attention to this thing, because it is not just about hearing one class on Sunday from 8:15 or 7:50 to 8:50. These are things which we do in our day-to-day life. So if I understand this well, if I get these concepts right, there is an implicit assumption that it will bring that change in my lifestyle. I will do things differently. But if I don't get it, I will continue doing the same thing, and I will continue to have the same mentality as this is given here, the claim versus deserving. What is the concept of yajna that Bhagavad Gita talks about? Which verse? Which chapter? Which number? Verse number? Anybody who knows the verse number? Huh? 3.9. Yajna arthat karmano. Yajna arthat karmano loko ayam karma bandhana. See, Bhagavad Gita is not some disjoint philosophy which doesn't have link. It is not something which is, okay, chapter 1 over, so chapter 2 is something very different from chapter 1. Chapter 3 is completely new thing. They are all interlinked. And there are some themes which run throughout Bhagavad Gita, and one of them is yajna. And the introduction of yajna happens in 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita itself, where Krishna is telling that yajnarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Very, very important, these verses and these concepts. When we get them clearly in life, then our life naturally becomes devotional, spiritual. You don't have to artificially try doing something. Okay, now what to do? I have taken an initiation. Now I have to be engaged in devotional service. If even in the wildest of dreams you are getting a thought like that, that means there is something wrong in understanding of what we are supposed to do in life. Because Krishna very nicely in 3rd chapter is telling yajnarthat karmano. Work has to be done for the pleasure or satisfaction of Vishnu. Yajnarthat karmano lokoyam karma bandhana. Anything else that you are doing, it is going to implicate you. It's going to bind you. Yajnarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. That is why you should do work only that work which is meant to satisfy Vishnu, mukta sangha samachara. By that you will become liberated. This is Krishna, how he introduces yajna in 3rd chapter, and then he goes on to say that people in this, I'm just turning off the video so that I can write freely. So in the 3rd chapter, Krishna says that every one of us, we have got our own nature. And based on our nature, there are prescribed duties. And these prescribed duties are mentioned in the Vedas. And if somebody is engaging in this kind of prescribed duties which is given in the Vedas, then he is doing yajna. He is doing sacrifice. Sacrifice is something which is required to acquire the qualifications. If we want to become a deserving person, then we need to, why it is not working. If we want to become a deserving person, then we need to acquire qualifications, and the qualifications comes by doing sacrifice. Okay, so this is very clear, this is simple, and we are getting so many things from this material world, and there are different proprietors who are giving these things. It is our duty to sacrifice something, not doing it for our own self, everything for our own self, but giving it to the demigods, is what Krishna says in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That is the first introduction of yajna. But very interestingly, when he goes to the 2nd chapter, he talks about something very interesting, and this is, so not 2nd, the 4th chapter, he talks about yajna, which is yajna 2.0. This is yajna 1.0. This is the, like we have different versions, or the advanced thing which comes. So yajna 2.0 is mentioned in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So 3rd chapter we just introduced about what is this concept of yajna. It is an act of sacrifice for a higher purpose, and when we are doing that, when we are sacrificing that, and when we understand that actually yajna is meant to be done for the pleasure of Lord, then that work becomes worship. But in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna further elaborates and expands that concept of yajna, he says how our life itself can become sacrifice. Let's understand this. This is very interesting actually. Often we don't pay attention. So what happens usually in a fire, in a sacrifice? What exactly we do? We'll have a fire, right? Imagine this is a fire. This is fire, and then there are some wood which is there, which is burning this fire, and you are putting something in the oblations, right? Some ghee or some hutam, whatever you are putting in that fire as oblations. What the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita actually Krishna is explaining is that there is a yajna or a sacrifice which every one of us should do to become a deserving candidate to be engaged in devotional service. There is a fire of spiritual purpose. There is a fire of spiritual purpose, and in this fire of spiritual purpose, we have to put oblations of our attachments. Somebody may say, I don't have any attachment in this material world. Think again and see if in your life if you have miseries. Is there anybody who can say that I don't have any miseries? We all experience different miseries. The cause of miseries is our attachments to different things that we hold on to, we cling on to. We don't want to let go of our own ideas, possessions, in gross and subtle way. Gross way, it is different gross objects that we are holding on to, and in subtle way, different ideas that we have, different concepts of life that we have. So when we put that in oblation, when we put that in fire of spiritual purpose, what actually comes out of it is pure consciousness. The whole life one can live in this idea of yajna, where all the attachments, different attachments that we have, we put it in the fire of spiritual purpose. And when we put it in the fire of spiritual purpose, what is coming out, what we are actually transforming is that of a man with pure consciousness. Take some examples to understand this. Very, very nice things, because the concept of yajna also we see Brahmarpanam, Brahma Havir, Brahmagno, Brahmahutam. We read that Brahma, 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 and then we forget it and we go ahead with this. But this is very nicely explained by Prabhupada. So when we build on these things, the link when we are able to see, and when we see how Krishna is taking us in a journey of evolution of our consciousness, we can appreciate these concepts very nicely, and we can apply that in our life. Simple example. Let's say we know the importance of attending Mangalarati in the morning, right? So we want to come and attend the Mangalarati, but then there is the laziness which prevents us to attend Mangalarati. We feel like sleeping more in the morning time. Nice comforter, beautiful, not beautiful, whatever, the cold day, comforter is even warmer, and you are just sleeping there deep within very nicely, but you know that you have to get up in the morning, you don't want to get up. But imagine if somebody is able to give up this laziness in the fire of saucha or cleanliness, or the shower, basically, cleanliness. When somebody is able to do that, what he gets out of here, out here is a state of awakening, or a consciousness which is more active. So if we just give up this one attachment like laziness in the fire of cleanliness, then we were getting a consciousness which is awake. I'm just giving you an example. For example, often sometimes people say, okay, by my nature I'm stuck in one place. I'm not able to move in life. And what should I do? Like, you are saying based on somebody's nature, one is doing prescribed duties, which is given in Vedas. Now I'm stuck in some IT job and I'm not able to do anything in life. Think again. Actually, Krishna is telling, even if you are doing something, if you change the consciousness, if you understand the deeper meaning behind why you are doing something, your consciousness inside is going to get transformed. And this is a very powerful thing. For example, somebody who's working hard in a IT company, right? He may be thinking, I'm frustrated and why am I doing this? What is the purpose of doing this? But if he just understands, if he just thinks that, okay, whatever frustrations I have, let me put these frustrations as oblation in the fire of responsibility, because I have to take care of my family members. automatically he becomes a deeper person. The concept of yajna, it is not that when we go through miseries or difficult situations in life, automatically our life will get transformed or our consciousness will change. No, it is only when we do with this particular purpose, spiritual purpose, when we are doing it with a higher cause, when we do with that understanding, that the transformation happens. For example, when simply a man is working, but he's thinking that I'm sacrificing my time, life, or whatever activities I'm doing for somebody else, he's doing it for a higher cause, automatically it is making him a more responsible person, a better person. And when somebody understands that the higher purpose, the highest purpose is Vishnu, Krishna, and when I'm able to sacrifice everything for the sake of Vishnu, that is the highest goal. I mean, the consciousness becomes completely clear. So Yajna 2.0 basically talks about, are you all there so far? Fire of responsibility. Then you become a deeper person. I can write here. So the frustrations of a person who is working in a day-to-day life in the fire of responsibility, because you may run out, no? You may say, why should I do this? I don't need to do this. This is boring, or this is I don't want to do. So many people don't want to get married, but they want to enjoy life, live in, all these kind of things. They're not, they just don't want to take that responsibility. But when somebody actually puts that frustration in the fire of responsibility, he comes out as a deeper person. A person who has got more deeper understanding of life and all. So basically, this is doing an act for a higher cause where you are sacrificing your comforts. But to understand that the highest cause is Vishnu, with that spiritual purpose, when we do activity, automatically everything becomes, our consciousness inside becomes pure. So I want to just share one thing. Actually, for the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it says work is worship. But if you follow this 4th chapter of Yajna, the concept of Yajna, whole life can become worship. Life is worship. So remember, all these things we are talking because we are talking about how we earn the qualification, where we become deserving deserving to go back home, back to Godhead. We need to earn those qualifications. And those qualifications come by performing these sacrifices, by performing yajna, as it is mentioned. And why this yajna has to be performed, and what is that? What is the necessity of performing yajna? This is something which we have to understand very nicely, and this is given in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Pay attention with this, maybe 10-15 minutes, with that we will close. But this is something we have to carry. We have to remember this throughout and see how beautifully Krishna explains this and how we don't pay attention or we miss out on these things. To know this, first I have to explain you something in a very pictorial way. So, why we need to do this yajna? What is the purpose of this yajna, and how this? We saw that yajna is purifying us. We are coming out with purified consciousness. But why yajna is required? That is given in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So it is a building up of knowledge. Gradually Krishna builds up and brings it to the summit, to the conclusion. You can't, give the knowledge at the first instance. Somebody who's coming for the first time, you tell him that no illicit sex, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication. Follow that, then only you come. That fellow will never come. Imagine if all of us in Kali Yuga, we have one or all of those things which we indulge in, and all of a sudden, if the first time somebody is hearing that, he will not be able to take it. But gradually, once he starts coming, he understands the importance of spiritual life. You tell him about the importance of 4 regulative principles, he will appreciate it at least. So let us understand, actually this is a very scientific thing, how why the necessity of yajna is there, and how, if we understand some finer concepts which Krishna explains in the 5th chapter, our consciousness can become very, very pure, and we become a deserving person, and we will not come and claim from other person. So we all know we are all spirit soul, right? So we are all spirit soul. And what is the characteristic of a spirit soul? Sat, Chit and Ananda. Okay? And imagine this spirit soul to be a source of wisdom which is emitting some light, like a bulb. Like a bulb which is white bulb, which is emitting white light. This soul is emitting something called bliss. What that means is, naturally, constitutionally, we are full of Ananda. We We don't have to artificially search for Ananda in this material world the way that we are doing. The soul, by constitutional, by its nature, is full of Ananda, filled with bliss. So it is emitting this bliss. But what happens is when this soul comes in contact with matter, first covering that comes the covering of false ego. When that bliss which is emitting from the soul, when it comes in the contact with false ego or the covering of false ego, this bliss transforms. It transforms into desire. The bliss becomes desire. And this false ego, because of the covering of false ego, a person starts getting an identity. I'm a woman. I'm a man. I'm an Indian man. So he gets an identity. He thinks I'm this. I'm a human being. I've got a human body. I've got a male body, female body. I've got an American body, African body. This is the first covering, the covering on the soul. So I start forming an identity, and based on that identity, I develop a desire. And this desire is a specific desire. Now here, since I'm thinking myself to be a human being, so I'll develop a human desire, humanly desire. And when this, the next covering which comes, which is the covering of mind and intelligence, what happens is this desire, mind, intelligence, this desire actually transforms to the desire gets a shape and form in the mind. So first covering, we form an identity that I'm a human being, and the bliss transforms to a desire. Desire means I want to enjoy in this material world. Then comes the covering of mind and intelligence, where the desire gets a shape. I want to eat chocolate cake. Okay? Now this is what the soul is desiring because of the covering of mind and intelligence. Good? Now the problem is, this is soul being covered by the false ego is desiring like that, and that desire is getting a shape and form by covered by the mind and intelligence, but there is nothing common between soul and material world. Soul and matter, it's like oil and water which cannot be mixed. So how does this desire of the soul gets communicated to the material world? How will it happen? Imagine if how? False ego is already there. It's the covering which is there. But how will you communicate? Imagine if I put you in Nigeria, okay, Lagos, and they speak some African language, and you have to go and tell them, paratha chahiye, mummy, mero ko, jo bhi hai, some other things, whatever you eat, paratha, chutney, aloo paratha, ye sab chahiye. Now you want to tell this, those people don't understand because they don't know your language. At least you need to have your mom who understands what you are looking for, and assuming that she has also the knowledge of African language, she'll be able to communicate. In our case, what happens is, there is somebody who's always accompanying us. He understands what we are desiring, and he's able to communicate. Does anybody know who's that? Who is, yeah. Yes, that is Paramatma. The super soul who's there in our, actually we don't realize these things, that how important the role of super soul in our heart. The super soul actually sees all the desires that we have, all the desires that are coming in our heart, whatever we are thinking, whatever this thing, it is read, understood, perceived by the super soul. And this super soul sanctions. He sanctions this desire that a soul is having based on something called the account of karma, the karmic account that we have. So we have a karmic account. So where all these samskaras or these impressions are stored in our mind. So the super soul checks that. He checks whether I have the required account or not, whether I have required currency. When he checks that, based on that, he sanctions it. So what happens is, when he sanctions this, it's very interesting, after that what happens? So when he sanctions this, the next thing that happens is, immediately it's not like the cycle is over. After that, there is material nature who's acting. So when the super soul sanctions, material nature is, including our body, mind, everything is material nature, right? Material nature, this is gross material energy. So material nature works. My body will, my hand will go, my legs will go, I'll go to the kitchen, I'll look for something, chocolate cake, wherever it is, and then I'll use my hand to put it in my mouth, and then I'll eat it. So this act is done by material nature. So the action part is done by material nature, but what happens is when we do any action, there is a feedback which comes in the form of reaction. And this reaction or an impression which is formed, pay attention, this is a very crucial thing in this. This reaction which comes, it will reinforce the karmic account that we have, the account of our samskaras or impressions. This reaction or in the form of impressions, it comes and gets stored in that account. Now in this whole cycle, what happens is, initially the soul desired because of the covering of the false ego, and then that desire got a shape and form because of the covering of mind and intelligence. It gets a shape or form in our mind. Then the super soul sanctions based on the karmic account that one has. Then the material nature is acting, and based on the action that I'm doing, I'm getting an impression or a reaction, and that impression is getting reinforced, getting superimposed to the account that I have created. Now, because of this impression which I'm forming again, this impression which is getting formed, what is happening is the desire is now coming from here. There is another thing which is coming from here because of the impressions that I have formed. Now I'm getting a desire. Yeah, that chocolate cake was nice. Maybe I should keep eating this. So you are developing another desire which is getting joined here, and then again that desire is being checked by the super soul based on your this thing, and there is a loop which is getting formed here. Though initially the desire was formed here in this place from the soul, now because of this impressions that I have formed, I know I am doing this. For example, let's take this example of a person who wants to steal first time. When he's thinking of stealing for the first time, he's scared. Should I do? Should I not? He's thinking of going out. Then he's coming out, coming back. No, I should not do. All these things is going on. But somehow he gets a desire that I should go and steal. When he develops that desire, the super soul sanctions. This person goes and he steals. And then after stealing, he gets some money or something. And he feels happy. So there is an impression which is getting stored in his mind. Stealing was good. By the process of stealing, I got some money or whatever it is. Now with that, I can enjoy. Now once this impression is formed, the next time, even if he doesn't want, automatically that impression triggers. It comes and just naturally it comes and provokes that why don't you go and steal one more time? And he goes and steals and he does it one more time, then the impression is again getting stored, and this is how a loop is formed, not just about stealing. It could be any bad habits that we get accustomed to in this material world. That's how we get trapped. So very interestingly, this is the cycle. But Krishna says, in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, if somebody somehow, so if you pay attention to this, if you are able to disassociate yourself from the false ego level, then there is no question of desire, because the desire is coming from, the initial desire is coming from the false ego. I desired because of the identity that I have got, and that is hence after that everything else is coming. But if somebody is able to disassociate himself with this false ego, then automatically this cycle is closed. There is no desire which is going, there is nothing which is happening. So even if he is there in this material world, since he doesn't have any desire to enjoy, he is very free. He is sitting in the city of 9 gates and he is enjoying. So it is important to know that how I can curb this false ego. What is the thing that I should do so that this false ego is at the level of false ego, this is curbed. And Krishna explains something very interesting, very powerful in Bhagavad Gita 5th chapter. He says that Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gabihastini Suni Chena Sopakecha Pandita Samadarshana. Very powerful verse. 5th chapter, 12th verse. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gabihastini Suni Chena Sopakecha Pandita Samadarshana. If you really want to develop an equal vision for in an array of very different things, like a Brahmana is a Brahmana, Gabihastini, a pregnant elephant, Sunichena Swapakecha. Sunichena is a dog and a dog eater. If you want to see them with equal vision, you need to have two things, Vidya and Vinaya. This is actually the crux, what I was trying to say in the beginning. This, if you understand, it'll help you in a very big way. We need to have these two things in our life to be able to overcome all these cycles, these impressions, whatever we are going through. And both are crucial. That is why Krishna is listing out these two things, Vidya and Vinaya. Now, how does this Vidya and Vinaya work? Let's pay attention to that. So we saw that, the spirit soul, the first thing that happens is, how do I draw some shapes? I don't know. The first thing that is happening is the soul is covered with the layer of, what is this first layer? False ego. Then what is the next layer? Actually intelligence, because intelligence is subtler than mind. And then there is mind. And then there is body or senses. Sorry, my drawing is body and senses. Okay, we all know this, right? Body and senses are the gross. Body is the grossest. Senses are the little subtler. Then there is mind, which is subtler. Then there is intelligence, which is even subtler. And then there is the covering of false ego. Now, why Krishna is calling out Vidya and Vinaya? So if you really want to control your mind and senses, the only way it can be done is if your intelligence is strengthened. If the intelligence is strong, you have the right intelligence, then you can discriminate, ये अच्छा है, ये खराब है. अगर वो intelligence नहीं है, if you don't have that intelligence, अच्छा बुराई में difference ही नहीं लगेगा. Whatever is, something which is good, which is really not good, which is bad, you will accept that as good. So that is why Vidya is required, and the Vidya, interestingly, works in the level of intelligence. Vidya, transcendental knowledge, the knowledge works in the level of intelligence. When the intelligence becomes stronger, it can control the mind and senses. Remember that example of the chariot example, where the mind is the rein and the senses are the horses, intelligence is the charioteer, and the soul is the traveler, right? So when the charioteer is able to control, he has got the strength, then it can control the mind and the senses. So transcendental knowledge, when we acquire, when we read this thoroughly, we understand we are not this body, we are spirit soul. And the spirit soul has got certain other functions. When we understand this theoretically, we will be able to control our mind and senses nicely, because intelligence is subtler than mind and senses. However, false ego is subtler than mind or senses or intelligence. Really? Or false ego is grosser than intelligence? So जो बोल रहे हैं सब हाँ ही है. False ego is grosser than intelligence. Yes, right? क्या? False ego is subtler than intelligence. The subtlest. Subtle मतलब क्या होता है? सूक्ष्म. Oh, it's very fine. It is finer than intelligence. So the false ego, transcendental knowledge will not work on the level of false ego. What works is Vinaya. That's why Krishna is telling why this is so important. See, you want to get rid of that desire at the false ego level, then you need to understand that the work that has to be done is humility. Vinaya is translated as humility. Very, very important, this thing. I'll give you an example. Let's say, you have a hammer, sledgehammer or any hammer. And I give you that hammer and I'll tell you, go and, finish one mountain, right? Just destroy that mountain. You go on hitting, go on hitting, go on hitting. It's a matter of time when that mountain will crumble, will fall down. Because even though this is subtle, this sledgehammer, it can destroy even a gross, this thing like mountain. But if I give you that sledgehammer or that hammer and I'll tell you, finish all the bacteria that you have in your body. तोड़ के मार दो उसको, बैक्टीरिया को. कर पाओगे? क्यों नहीं? Bacteria is subtle. You can't kill it with the hammer. So you need some. That is why Vinaya, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. When we have not just transcendental knowledge, we also develop the real humility in life. We will be able to overcome. We will be able to see things properly. Humility is such an important thing. You see that 125-year-old man? There is no need. He's getting all the recognition in life. He can go fully dressed, coat, suit में आके Padma Shri, little bit of respect required. ठीक है? Padma Shri हो नहीं हो, दूर में रहो. I can do that. Before that, if you see all the awardees, none of them is coming and doing some dandavats to anyone. And if you see the interview, he says, "This is my natural this thing." A person, when he goes, he transcends this bodily concepts of life, transcends this false ego. He develops that genuine humility. What is my position? I'm nothing. My greatest blessing is I have been accepted by Prabhupada. I have been given this transcendental knowledge. I should be engaged in devotional service. When somebody does that, naturally he develops all these qualifications. Naturally he'll be engaged in yajna. Naturally he'll get rid of all these bad things. But that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Trinadapi Sunichena is so important. Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Sahishnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. Trinadapi Sunichena, you have to be humbler than the grass, more tolerant than the tree. Amanina Manadena, give respect to others, never expect any respect for yourself. If somebody does, he will never be disturbed. And if he's never disturbed, he'll be able to do devotional service. Now to conclude our time together, is a lot. Actually, I was telling the fifth chapter. Fifth chapter is an amazing, amazing chapter. I will just take one verse and with that we will close. This verse is in the 5th chapter, 7th verse. Very interesting verse. I'm not going to the 29th verse. That is a very powerful verse. But this verse you should remember. This verse is Yoga Yukta Vishuddhatma Vijitatma Jitendriyaha Sarva Bhutatma Kurbanapina Lipyate. This is a state of a person who's practicing yajna, who's practicing devotional life, staying in this material world. He's working, yet he's not getting implicated. Kurbanapina Lipyate. This one verse, when I read for the first time, it actually, changed the whole idea of spirituality that we have. Usually people, when they think of spirituality, especially the newcomers, they think that sab maya hai, this is all maya, this is all false, we have to just give up all these things, I have to develop detachment, I have to renounce, I have to control my mind, I have to control my senses. It looks so difficult. But in this verse, in the purport, Prabhupada says something which you should repeatedly meditate. Very nice verse, this one. I'm just reading the portion which is relevant for all of us. So Prabhupada is writing in the purport, because one who works in Krishna consciousness is servant to all, he is very dear to everyone. And because everyone is satisfied by his work, he is pure in consciousness. Because he is pure in consciousness, his mind is completely controlled. And because his mind is controlled, his senses are also controlled. And because his mind is always fixed on Krishna, there is no chance of being deviated from Krishna. I don't know if you got it or not, but very, very interesting. There is a nice flowchart which Krishna talks about, Prabhupada talks about in this verse. Very, very powerful actually. First thing Prabhupada is saying, because one who works in Krishna consciousness is servant to all. So if you are working in Krishna consciousness, what happens is the attitude that one should develop is, I am servant to all. Let me serve. I am servant to all, not just to the Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas are far superior, but I need to develop that. I have to have that attitude of servitude. Let me serve everyone, including, Vaishnavas are even far superior. I have to serve them. So because one is in Krishna consciousness, this is at the false ego level, mind you. So that's why he's thinking, I am servant to all. Because somebody is thinking, I am servant to all, everyone is satisfied with him. The moment you come as, I am the boss, kyun kiya tum? ऐसे बोलने से nobody is happy. The moment you come as a servant, everybody is happy. Because one who works in Krishna consciousness is servant to all, he is very dear to everyone. So because he is servant to all, so he is dear to everyone. So because he is dear to everyone, what happens is next is, because everyone is dear to him, everybody is satisfied with his work. Satisfaction comes by, because the person is dear to everyone, so everyone is satisfied with his work. And because everyone is satisfied with his work, what happens is next? Because everyone is satisfied with his work, so because everyone is satisfied with his work, he is having a pure consciousness. A very powerful thing actually. And because he is having a pure consciousness, his mind is automatically controlled. And because his mind is controlled, his senses are controlled. And because his senses are controlled, he will never deviate from the spiritual path. never deviate from spiritual path. So this is a very, this is a very radical definition of spirituality which Prabhupada gives. This is very nice. It, usually we think we have to control our senses, and once the senses are controlled, then mind will be controlled, and mind is controlled, then I'll be able to practice devotional life. But here it is very different. When somebody is actually practicing Krishna consciousness, he considers himself to be a servant of all. The moment one develops that attitude of servitude, then he becomes dear to everyone. And when he is dear to everyone, everyone becomes satisfied with him. So when everyone is satisfied, what is happening is, this is the secret, they bestow their blessings. If I am satisfied with you, your service, there is a blessing which is given. That blessing helps one to develop that pure consciousness. And because of that pure consciousness, the mind becomes controlled. And because the mind is controlled, senses are controlled. And because the mind and senses both are controlled, that person never deviates from Krishna conscious life. It's very different. So it starts opposite way. It starts the moment you start thinking yourself to be servant of all, you become dear to everyone. There are people who are also in the devotional life, they come up with excuses for every single thing. You ask them to do something, they will say 1,000 things. I will not do this. I don't want to do this. I'm not... or why didn't you do this? If you ask questions, they feel some, irritated. They'll have so many things in their mind. So where is the question of servitude? If that question of, if that servitude comes in the mind, if somebody understands my real constitutional position that I am servant to all, he becomes dear to everyone. When he becomes dear to everyone, his work is, he'll satisfy everyone. And when he's satisfying by his work, he'll get the blessings. This is a secret of devotional life, to earn that qualification. Unless one gets this, it is very, very difficult. People can practice devotional life the way they want to. They can come and do things. But these are some of the secrets which we have to understand very nicely. And when we understand that, automatically life changes, our life itself becomes a yajna, and we are engaged in devotional service, we become deserving to get more responsibilities. Seva adhikara diye koro nij dasi. Seva adhikara. We'll get that privilege to be engaged in devotional service. So these are some of the thoughts. One last thing before I conclude. Actually, this whole subject of qualification is so deep if one carefully sees. Prabhupada talks about this at so many different places. One very important thing which needs to be also coupled with the humility which is required to cultivate in one's life is the attitude of gratitude. When somebody is having so much of gratitude in his heart, when heart is filled with gratitude, he will not find faults. But when the heart is not having gratitude, it's only when the heart is lacking with gratitude that one sees faults. Prabhupada says these temples are pockets of Vaikuntha, where there are a person can come and he can associate with devotees, take advantage of all the spiritual activities which are available, and can transform himself. And in these pockets of Vaishnavas, in the pockets of Vaikunthas, there can be some variations. One place is having some problems, some things. Another place is having something else which is going on. But still, these are pockets of Vaikuntha. When one understands how much of blessings we have been given in the form of books, in the form of prasadam, in the form of deities, in the form of holy name, in the form of association, where is the question of finding fault? But if the heart, there is no gratitude, if the gratitude is less, if I'm not able to count the blessings that I've been given, I will start finding faults with every single thing. Ye nahi hai, wo nahi hai, aisa nahi hai, wahan aisa hota hai, idhar aisa hota hai. What it does is it deprives us of all our pious credit. All our good things are depleted completely from the heart. And a person becomes a pauper in spiritual life. No spiritual wealth in that way. So it is very important to avoid these things and understand this mood of humility which Prabhupada and Krishna brings in very beautifully in Bhagavad Gita. And then our life will transform. There is one beautiful couplet which I heard, and Badri said he also knew about this earlier. This is spoken by Kabir. Imagine in your life, for some reason, you found a person who's a fault finder, who's a Ninduk. So what to do now? We are supposed to, we're not supposed to have any, we ourselves are not supposed to do this fault finding, but we have found a person who's a fault finder. How should we deal with him? Kabir says very interestingly, Nindaka niyare rakhiye. Nindaka niyare rakhiye, Angan kuti chabaye. Nindaka niyare rakhiye, Angan kuti chabaye. Bin sabun pani bina, nirmal kare suhaye. Nindaka niyare. Nindaka, if you find a Nindak, bring him and give him a garland first. You are a Nindak, man, not an ordinary person. And then you make him sit right in the courtyard of your house with a chair, nicely make him sit, give him garland, juice pilao, khana wana khilao. Then you say, continue. Nindaka niyare rakhiye, Angan kuti chabaye. Bin sabun pani bina. You don't need any sabun, you don't need any soap or any water. Bin sabun pani bina, nirmal kare suhaye. Because he will constantly go on saying, ye galat hai, ye kharab hai, ye nahi hai. सुनने से ऑटोमेटिकली स्वभाव तुम्हारा जो हमारा अंदर का ये है, it will become purified. You don't need any sabun and pani. You don't need any soap and water. This is what Kabir says. Very powerful verse. So if you come across an Ninduk, don't feel bad. Give him a garland and give him, seat, nice place to sit, and let him continue. Give him more juice, energy, and okay, continue. Bin sabun pani bina nirmal kare suhaye. So that's some of the thoughts. I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments. I already have exceeded time. Where is that?
Where is that intelligence? How the intelligence is like controlled there? Like
which one you are saying? This
bottom.
Bottom. Which one? This one? This one?
No.
Or niche? Vidya, Vinaya, no. Which one? Achha, this one. Achha, here,
Yeah,
where is the intelligence in this? You are saying?
Pure consciousness. Is that?
No. So when this is a different process. This is you are not going through the conventional ways where you are trying to control your senses, trying to control your mind, and that usually is done with the help of intelligence. You are bypassing all of them. By working at that false ego level where you are accepting yourself as a servant to all. With that attitude, when you go, you become dear to everyone. When you become dear to everyone, your work satisfies everyone. That satisfaction, I am adding that satisfaction when somebody develops, you're satisfying someone by your work, you get the blessings. That blessing helps one to develop that pure consciousness inside. And because of the pure consciousness, mind becomes controlled. Because mind is controlled, senses are controlled, and a person never deviates from spiritual life. It's a very mystical process. Even to practice yajna in life, which is so nicely explained in Bhagavad Gita, immediately after that Krishna says that to practice that in your life, you have to approach a tattvadarshi person, a person who is a spiritual master. Tadviddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. Go to a tattvadarshi person, inquire from him submissively. Again, there is submission in there. So when you inquire from him submissively, not in an antagonist way or not in a manner which is challenging, submissively, because I want to really understand, then it will be manifesting. Currently, our level is at this level of ignorance. We have to come to the level of knowledge. But beyond the level of knowledge is the level of realization. Okay, now ignorance to knowledge can be filled with all this information that we are gathering. You can come to the level of knowledge. But to bridge this gap between knowledge and realization, you have to engage in devotional service. Sevaya. Seva is the secret. It's a very mystical thing. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there is that freedom fighter who had come with doubts. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that you go and do some pot washing. So he goes and does the pot washing. By the time he comes out, he doesn't have any questions. How does it work? It's a mystical thing. But you want that knowledge to become realized, engage in devotional service. It bridges the gap between knowledge and realization.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
So I do have a question on Vinay.
Hmm.
That is the humbleness, humanity, right? So you said that actually that's the first step. We have to be humble to everyone, try to satisfy everyone. I'm a part of like a materialized world, right? Subjective.
We're all part of material world. You're
Everyone.
not exception. Yeah.
Everyone, right? So let me confess that either I didn't understand the concept, or I'm taking it wrong way. So I'm sorry for that. Don't mind. If I just have like a simple example, because the one is my family, another is my office. If I start satisfying everyone, and we are part of like Kali Yuga, right? And whatever I am asking, that could create a laughter. So I'm a part of Kali Yuga. I have family, I have office. If I start satisfying everyone, they will take my advantage, right? If I explain in my family,
What is the understanding of humility you have?
being humble.
But what does that mean?
So from my perspective, there are many flavors. Like if I'm saying someone is beating an animal, actually I would try to save him, save the animal. Not audible?
You will try to save the animal, yes.
Yeah. So different flavors. If something is going wrong with some person, then I could actually help him, or like try to show the humanity.
Yes.
Yeah, different flavors.
Okay.
So in home, like if I try to satisfy my wife, there could be someone who has, I think I could actually satisfy only one person at a one time.
Yeah, no, I understood your question. Basically, we have all wrong understanding of what humility is. Humility doesn't mean that we allow ourselves to get allow ourselves to be taken advantage of. It's not. The definition of humility is given in the 13th chapter. Read that portion where Krishna says this is items of knowledge. Amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, santir, arjavam, acharya, upasanam, stairyam, atma vinigraham. It goes, there are 20 items of knowledge which Krishna lists. And in that, amanitvam is the first one, which is humility. Adambitvam is pridelessness. What is that virtue of humility? First we have to understand before saying that what will happen in my life. Because of our wrong notion of certain things in our mind, we really don't know what humility is. And Prabhupada explains each of these virtues very, very wonderfully. So it's a long this thing, but one definition which he gives in the purport, and you can go and read in your this thing. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Every word in this sentence is powerful. To understand what humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Often there are people who do devotional service, little bit. They go on telling, "Pata hai kaun kiya hai ye? Huh? Pata hai? Kahan? Kya pata hai aapko?"
I did it.
Then I am happy. There is a person who is anxious to get the satisfaction of being honored by others. Humility is someone who's not anxious. The definition of humility is very, very profound. It's not some materially ऐसे खड़ा रहने का boss के सामने, वो humility नहीं है. It's not humility. And Prabhupada explains this further. If you understand the concept, it's not about always meek and like this person. It's not like that. That's what under that one some wrong this thing we have got in our mind. But it's a virtue which has to be practiced in our life.
Thank you.
If you if you see that within yourself, it is not to see others. If within ourselves we are not satisfied unless I say to some 10 different people, "Kaun kiya? Main kiya. Mai kiya. Mai kiya." Where is the question of humility? मेरे वजह से हुआ, मैंने इतना अच्छा गाया, मैं इतना अच्छा बोला, मैंने इतना बड़ा प्रोग्राम किया, मैं गया बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, देखा कितना पैसा आया, लक्ष्मी आया, all where is it? And that you go on telling. Where is the question of humility? And without humility, mind you, this is not some easy book that we can understand, we can read and understand ourselves. It's complicated. It's not easy to realize this. That is why Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. You need the transcendental knowledge, but you need the humility. The crucial thing, very crucial.
But there are few areas where we do not say that I did it. Something that if I'm like responsible person in family, right? I keep on doing many things, but I do not ever say that I did it. I'm fulfilling something for my daughter. That's my duty. I won't say that. Something my wife needs, I won't say that. Something my mom needs, I won't say that. But what if three come together and ask me something around the same time? How could I satisfy all?
Why you need to satisfy them?
How can I be humble to them?
Had it been so easy, Bhagavad Gita would have not been spoken, right? Yeah. We're all virtuous sages sitting here. Bhagavad Gita ka kya zarurat hai? It's a cultivation of, it's a lifelong project. 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling to build on certain things, right? So I'm just touching on something which is there, and we have to do research. We have to do more studies on this.
Thank you.
We'll stop here and see further how this Bhagavatam unfolds, what happens to Aswathama. We'll see this in the subsequent verses. We'll stop here. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanand